One of the things that makes Germany a great place to live is the high degree of trust that people have in each other and in the country's institutions, resulting in a far greater sense of community. That, at least, is the message behind a video that I've just watched. Ironically, right after my wife and I had a conversation about how individualistic people have become recently. The video in question comes from a channel called Brit in Germany, so let me just say, hello, fellow countrymen and almost neighbour. Now, this is a response to that video, but let me begin by saying that I do agree with the general point that it makes. There is in Germany a higher degree of trust than there is in at least some other countries, so I'm not saying that the video is wrong, but I have noticed what I think looks like a steady erosion of that trust. So let me just mention a few things that video seems to have missed. The video makes the point, for example, that Germans are much more likely to get involved in the life of the community, which is true, but these days the community spirit is not looking as healthy as it used to. And I'm able to provide the perfect illustration. Those of you who've been watching this channel for long enough may have seen some of my videos of the village's annual Straw Bale Festival, culminating in the crowning of the Straw Bale Queen, an event organised by the community for the community. Naturally, the pandemic meant that the festival couldn't take place for a couple of years, and although it returned last year, I was, at the time, recovering from a minor medical emergency, so I couldn't make a video. Which is a pity, because what I didn't know at the time, because nobody knew it at the time, was that this was to be the last ever Straw Bale Festival. One of the societies involved in organising the event has pulled out, the remaining organisers are just getting too old, and so that's it. It joins an ever-growing list of festivals in this area that have been abandoned, partly because they're now seen as old-fashioned, and partly because people these days are much less likely to invest in the life of a community or make their own entertainment. And with that comes the steady fracturing of society and therefore also of trust. One of the great things about these festivals used to be that there would be 3 or 4 generations all coming together, but now I see a trend towards each generation doing its own thing and complaining about all the other generations. The video also says that CCTV is everywhere in the UK, but not so much in Germany. Which is true to an extent, but fundamentally the reason for that is not a feeling that the general public can be trusted. Rather, it's a feeling that governments and corporations cannot be trusted. For historical reasons, Germans do not trust anything that looks to them like mass surveillance. And this is something that I experience firsthand. Sometimes when I'm out and about with my camera, I get people complaining that I am invading their privacy, even though they have no idea what I'm actually filming. On one recent occasion, I was challenged by a lady who objected to the fact that I was pointing my camera at a sign that just happened to be fixed to the outside wall of a house that she claimed to be the owner of. What was on that sign was the name of a business. I was standing in a public space filming something that was clearly visible, in fact, intended to be clearly visible from that public space at eye level. Her reason for trying to stop me? She thought I might be trying to dox her on social media. In other words, she didn't trust me. Now, don't get me wrong, certainly compared to countries like the UK, there is in Germany a high degree of trust and a sense of community, but that has its limits and it is quite fragile. If you want to know how fragile it is, consider the mass protests of anti-vaxxers allied with various anti-democratic groups that took place during the pandemic, all of them expressing what boils down to distrust in the government. Yes, again, compared to many other European countries, Germany has so far done reasonably well to maintain the democratic order and to keep, in particular, the far right in check, more or less. But still, the potential is there, and it is a depressing fact that outside of the USA, the country where the QAnon movement has been most successful is Germany. But let me end on a note of optimism. Fundamentally, I do agree with the Brit in Germany, whose video I have of course linked in the description, and I do think that we are in a very strong position to be able to defend and maintain our sense of community. We just have to put a bit more work into it, that's all. Why have I got cat hairs in my nose? It grows and ever... what? That was... It grows a list? Fundamentally, I do agree with the Brit in video.